Thank you for tuning in to the Houndsman XP Podcast for another great episode. And I'm telling you, this week we have got a special treat. It is a husband and wife team of world champions. I've got Danny and Megan Perez that are going to come on the podcast and have a conversation with me about their experiences with coonhounds. And Megan was the UKC World Champion bench show contestant this year. And you're going to hear her story. You're going to hear about why conformation is important. You're going to listen to her philosophy on why it is so necessary that these hounds are sound. We are going to slay some sacred cows on this episode. We're going to talk about why it is so important that you have a hound that has got correct conformation. And then Danny is going to weigh in on performance side of it. Danny was the 2020 Blue Tick World Champion with his hound, Pop 'em Up Woodrow. And Danny and I have got a long history. It's kind of a colorful history, and you're going to hear all about that. So Danny and I are going to go back and forth in the typical antagonistic relationship that we have. And then Danny and Megan are going to go for a session of marriage counseling. But anyway, you're going to really enjoy this podcast. And if you're into competing with your hounds, you're going to love it. I mean, this is the peak, the summit of coonhound competition in this episode. You've been asking for it, and we are delivering an episode for you. The competition coon hunter out there and bench show enthusiast. This is a great podcast and great conversation with two great people, Danny and Megan Perez. Without any further delay, let's get into this episode with Megan and Danny Perez. You're going to laugh. You're going to pick up a lot of valuable information on how to take your game to the next level. And I think this is a great episode. I hope you really enjoy it. And like always, thank you for spending your time with Houndsman XP.
You hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you good. Are you going to be all shy and weird acting about this?
Depends on the question, I guess.
It depends on the question? All right. Well, the first question is how does it feel to be a world champion?
Oh, amazing. I've been wanting that for so many years, I can't even explain.
How many years have you been showing dogs?
My entire life, since I can remember.
Well, we won't ask you how old you are, but how did you get started? Danny's old, and I always figured you were like 15 or 20 years younger than him.
I'm not that sick.
No, my parents actually did it together, so that's actually how I got into it. So since I could even reach a bench, my mom and dad used to coon hunt together all the time, but they wouldn't let me go when I was itty-bitty. And, you know, they got the coonhound bloodlines and the Cooner and all these different magazines, and I'd look at them. And before I could even read real well, I remember seeing those pictures and wanting to train my dogs to do what they do in the pictures, even the hunt win pictures. So that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. So how'd you and Danny meet? Just through the hunts and through stuff like that?
I got this.
Go, Danny.
I'm very charming, and as you know, I'm extremely attractive.
You know, when I first met you at Blue Tick Days, I was kind of disappointed personally.
Were you?
Yeah, I thought you'd be bigger.
Because I was taken?
Huh?
Because I was off the market?
Oh, yeah. Oh. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, it is pretty cool because you guys pulled off something this year. I'm not sure that it's ever been done in the same year before. But Danny, were you top 10 with Woodrow this year?
No, 13th.
13th, but you were the world champion Blue Tick. But Megan brought home the big prize with Girl and brought home the actual bench show world champion, which is really cool. So I just want to talk to you both about, hunting and hounds and how you get dogs prepared for stuff like that, and just have a real plain talk about a married couple that of world champions. So does that sound good?
Sure.
All right. Well, Megan, I really want to kind of focus on your accomplishments right now, being the world champion. So tell us a little bit about Girl. Tell us where she came from, how long you've had her, stuff like that.
So I used to show her mom and dad years ago, and unfortunate circumstances, I had to move those dogs, and that was actually after I won the national title with her daddy at Autumn Oaks.
And what year was that? Because I remember that year. I remember the year you did that.
It was 2009.
Okay. Yeah. Was that the 50th annual?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of an accomplishment, a huge accomplishment, because they brought in Wayne Cavanaugh, which, I think he seemed pretty knowledgeable, and he didn't know anybody. So that was the best part about it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know any of the people personally, any of the dogs personally. So it was a huge accomplishment.
Right.
But then when I got back into it, when I met Danny, I got a male pup off of that cross that didn't really work out well. And Danielle Champ in West Virginia actually ended up with both Wonder Boy and Barbie, which is Girl's parents. And she made that cross. And I ended up with one of those pups. She also won the breed at the World with my cousin Crystal, which that female is actually owned by my nephew Sean right now. But she wasn't, in my opinion, the best of the litter, but she was super nice female. Don't get me wrong, the whole litter is super nice. And I was actually supposed to come home with a male off of that cross that Danielle Champ owned. I showed him at Autumn Oaks, and I can't remember the year, but they were not, I don't even know if they were quite a year yet. We won Best of Show.
Yep.
And Gary Franks in Alabama owned this female Girl, and he had contacted me. I had been wanting pictures of this female forever, and he just, he didn't really send me pictures. So he actually offered me a partnership at that time, and Danny and I drove, was it 4 hours to go get her? I believe it was 4 hours, and he couldn't believe it. He was stressed out that we were driving 4 hours to go get this dog I hadn't even seen pictures of. But
Danny was stressed out?
Yeah. Well, he just couldn't believe that we were bringing in a dog that we've never seen pictures of. But, I mean, sometimes you have to trust the bloodline. You have to trust the dogs that you are familiar with.
Right.
And that's how I originally ended up with her as a partnership. But Danny's actually how I ended up with her on full ownership, so I appreciate that very much.
So he is good for something then. That's actually encouraging. I'm glad to hear that. So anybody that doesn't know the relationship between Danny and I, it's kind of an inside deal. But Danny, you want to take this one, or should I? I'll give you my version, and then you give him your version.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've got a group in Facebook Messenger called the True Blue Brotherhood, and a bunch of guys that hunt blue ticks. We all get on there and have a good time and cut up and stuff like that. And I kind of felt sorry for Danny and started taking advantage of him in the group. And I think I hurt his feelings because he started lashing back at me. And it was all in good fun, but at the end of the day, you just got to lighten up and back away from some of those things so you maintain good relationships. That's my take on it, Danny.
That's a good one. I think our relationship is a battle of wits and who's the alpha male, and clearly that is me. It's a battle of wits, and it entertains me and it makes me laugh. And the reason why I'm so hard on you is because I know you can take it.
Yeah, and see, I was thinking about this when I was getting ready for the podcast, and I was trying to decide whether it was a battle of wits and who's establishing the alpha male, or if we're actually reverting back to like junior high, just unleashing some of those skills we learned in junior high school. But
yeah, I think you may be onto something. We just have intellectually, I think we do it a little smoother than we might have done in junior high.
yeah.
Half the time I just do it for the other guys to think like, whoa, did he just say that to him?
Exactly. No kidding. That's the way I did it too. I'm serious. That's my whole motivation right there. Everybody else is like, whoa. And I think Todd Robinson, a lot of times, at first he was like, holy crap, look at these guys go at it, but now he's figured it out. And Todd's a super dude too. So a bunch of good guys
really
in there.
Good guy.
Yep.
All of them are. But Todd's the guy that's always gonna say the nice thing and take the high road.
Oh yeah, nobody can depend on us for that. That's for sure.
No, we're good for a good laugh.
All right. Well, I want to get back to this World Bench Show champion, and the reason I want to talk about this is because this is kind of an area of the podcast we've never talked about. We've never talked about the value of conformation in our dogs, and why we have bench shows and things like that. So I thought, who better to get on the podcast than somebody that's been doing this their entire life, that can talk about why they do it, the importance of it, and go from there. So, Megan, I mean, what value do you see in conformation shows for our hounds?
I think that the breed standards are very important. I mean, this is a discussion that Danny and I have nonstop when we make crosses, whether it's for hunting, whether it's mainly for showing, whatever. I think that the breed standards are huge. They were put in place for a reason for the best ability of the hounds. To me, I think both parts are very important.
Both parts meaning what?
The breed standards, the ability, and basically the build of the hound. I think they're very both important.
Why do you think breed standards were established? Let's boil this down right to the very basics. Why were breed standards established, do you think?
I mean, that's basically the ability of the hound. That's how, I mean, when you see the movement of a hound, I mean, it makes the best, like when they're doing what they're bred to be doing, like for the ability, I guess.
The function, functionality.
Right. Exactly.
For the working ability, for a dog to continue to be able to work day in and day out, those breed standards were established for that purpose.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
You said it.
Appreciate it.
What?
Thanks for answering that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you could have said it any better.
I just brought clarification.
I was waiting for Megan to spit it out, but
I was trying. I've said it before when I was judging at a dog show, but thanks. Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Oh, you're a good sport. So when you see people that are breeding for these breed standards, do you feel like that is going to help the dog in the woods then? That's the ultimate goal?
I do, but I also see that sometimes people breed the, I don't want to say the brains, but I mean, I'm going to have to say it. I do think that I see that being bred out as well. So that's not good to just have the breed standards only. You have to have it both.
Okay, there we go. That's a hot button topic that I want to talk about. So I'm serious. That was a home run right there, Megan. So, it seems like houndsmen try to pigeonhole the use of the dogs and different things like that. Everything's got its category. That's a big game line of hounds. That's a competition line of hounds. They make good pleasure dogs. That's a show dog line. And what have you seen over the years happen to some of the breeds because of these categories that we want to put our dogs in, and what's it done to the breed overall, if anything?
I mean, I think a lot of the different bloodlines, I do think that we're losing a lot of temperament. I think that we're losing a lot of tree ability. I mean, we work our quote show puppies and our hunting puppies, and you do see sometimes in some of the show dogs, and I mean, this goes back. This isn't just I mean, it is specific bloodlines, but
it didn't start 5 years ago.
Right, exactly. And you do see some of these show pups like that we've worked have just drove a track, but then have no tree at all, or so I do think that and then you have the temperament issue too. Obviously, coonhounds they are supposed to be extremely active and happy, and you're losing that in a lot of the show. And I'm not real sure where that's coming from, to be honest with you, Chris, but it's definitely something that's becoming more of a problem.
Mm-hmm. So do you think there's too much emphasis on breeding for conformation instead of functionality or ability in some of the, because I'll speak from my experience. When I started hunting, going to competition hunts, first autumn oaks, the bench show was something that, honestly, I mean, just putting it right out there, it was something that filled up the day. It was like, oh, yeah, we'll go watch the bench show. Oh, yeah, I'll put this dog in the bench show. You'd see a guy with the same dog he had entered that night. He was out there slicking him up on the tailgate and then trotting him in and putting him on a bench. And now anybody that has never seen either the World Show or Autumn Oaks is probably the best example. I mean, there's grooming stands now in the Raper building for Autumn Oaks. So, are people breeding for the purpose of winning that conformation show and leaving too much ability behind?
I think people are forgetting what it's all about. You're talking to somebody who's very passionate about both the ability and the show.
Right.
Whether you want to take a dog and let it shine and what it was bred for ability-wise is totally different than, breeding out. Because I can say this for the hunting aspect and the show aspect. I've seen both sides not focus on both things.
Mm-hmm.
So I could say that for that I've seen for both.
All right, here's
some people don't really care. I mean, they will keep, dogs that are flat-footed and weak pasture and a weak top line and ticked up and, all these different things that you might not see in the show ring, but they do. They really focus on the ability, and they turn them into, winners in the woods.
Right. So, all right, let's go back to what you just said. You mentioned several faults in a dog right there. And let's talk about those from the ground up on the functionality of a hound. And we'll circle back to this passionate topic in a minute. But you mentioned several things that you felt like were faults. And let's just start at the ground, flat feet. So when you're looking at a hound, do you look at the feet first?
Of course, you want one with you want one with a little tighter foot and a little thicker padding, obviously, because, that has a very big impact of the longevity of the hound being on their feet.
Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the foot, when I look at a foot is a lot different than when Megan Perez looks at a foot. I'm looking at a foot for functionality, but I'm looking for that tight foot. What am I actually seeing there when I see a tight-footed dog, and what does that transfer into in the woods?
So you want more of a cat-looking foot. Obviously it says that in the breed standards, but then also in the pasterns you want a little bit of a give, but you don't want too much give because that again is a weakness. So I think personally when you have a dog that's flat-footed, thin pad, that dog's not gonna their feet aren't gonna hold up as long. If you have somebody that's hunting 6-7 nights a week every night of the week, you're gonna have to give them a break off their feet. They're gonna start to slow down. You're gonna have issues with the pads.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion it's very, very important to have good feet. And sometimes people have too much. If you don't have any give, and they're straight down into their foot and super small feet, that's also, again, that's not a good thing. Yeah.
So when I'm looking at this puppy, I should be looking for so here's the question. if I'm looking, these dogs are bred the way I want them bred, and I'm not a bench show guy. I'm a hunter and I'm a functionality guy. I'm looking at these dogs, this litter of puppies that are out of the hunting stock that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see some of those traits at a weanling age pup? Is that possible?
Yes, padding, not necessarily the cat foot, because puppies, especially around teething age, are going to go down on their feet. I mean, I've had puppies be completely, flat-footed, but you could still see that padding once they get through the teething stage. Once they do get to a certain age, it will all come together.
Okay.
But the padding is huge. I mean, when you're looking at a puppy's foot, you wanna feel and see a thicker padding.
Danny, you got something to add? I hear mumbling in the background.
No, it wasn't me, but
Don't
I'm sure
lie.
he has something to say. We
Yeah.
talk about this on a regular basis.
Go ahead, Danny.
her and I don't agree on everything, which is fine.
Neither do
as
me
far
and my
as
wife.
I mean, yeah, I don't know too many people that would agree with you, but
That's
no, I when it comes to hunting dogs, I look at heart. I don't worry about feet. Don't worry about, I like a good looking dog. Don't get me wrong. I'm lucky enough to have one right now, but heart and hustle, that's the kind of stuff I look for. And I honestly believe if you want to win the big shows, you're going to have to be breeding show lines. And if you want to win the big hunts, you got to be breeding hunting lines. The dream of combining them, it'd be a very long road, and you're not going to win much in between. That is my take on it.
See, Chris, that's kind of where we kind of disagree a little bit. So
I hear you. Okay, well, this is.
I do think that deep down, Danny does. I mean, he doesn't want to keep an ugly, not well built hound. And let's just face it, it would take years to combine all this to get that perfect hound all around, right?
Right.
But
Nobody's
that's the
ever done
problem.
it. Nobody's ever done it.
But that's the problem. You got people that think that, I disagree, but and I know that he can say that we disagree, but we don't, because I promise you, if we have a dog sitting on the kennel and it's flat-footed, I don't care. I mean, unless it's some phenomenal hound, he's not going to keep that dog.
Well, just so we know, before we get too far into this, we have been talking to a sponsor for the podcast for discounts on marriage counseling. So when we're done with this, if we get to that point, then I'll give you a special code for marriage counseling.
Agree to disagree.
You agree to disagree?
Ain't nothing worth fighting about.
No, we're both passionate about it, and we know it, and we understand it.
Yeah.
But I do think that sometimes he says that, and then
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm picking a puppy, I'm picking the good-looking one, and if I don't get it, I don't have to have one. But when it comes down to it, the dogs with the most heart is the ones that are winning the most hunts.
I 110% agree
Right.
with you there.
Right.
I just think I 110% agree with you, but that's where I was
just
saying.
Drop it.
All right. So let me move us on here. So when I'm looking for this pup, and I'm looking for a dog that it doesn't matter whether I'm coon hunting or I'm big game hunting. When you're big game hunting, a dog that can't walk on its feet after a pretty simple day of running is pretty worthless to have in your kennel or to feed. You need a dog that can move every day. So I was what I was really looking for was advice to hunters that are looking for functionality on the pad, the foot. When I'm trying to pick this pup and I'm trying to make a great decision, rather than looking at ear spread or whatever, maybe it all goes together, but feet are the most important thing.
Right.
What does that guy need to be looking at when he's looking at that litter of puppies and thinking, that pup right there is probably going to be really durable? He's going to be durable and be ready, or she is going to be ready to hunt any day that I want to take her.
Well, I mean, it starts at the bottom, so the feet are very important. And
Okay.
then, I do think, obviously, that the chest is another one that you want to look in, like the I mean, the fullness of the chest and the depth of the chest, because obviously you want to have good capacity there as well. So those would be the two things. And you're talking to somebody that thinks that head, I know that this is terrible. When I'm looking at a pup, I do think that head and ears are very important as well. But obviously that's not something, in my opinion, that in my time of being around hounds, that's really showed a difference in a dog, what it could do ability, that much, I guess. Feet are huge. And then, the chest capacity, that's huge as far as like the longevity of, the hound doing what it's supposed to do.
So when I'm looking for that, I want a thick front end there, a lot of capacity in the lungs, a lot of space for that heart and lungs to work. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's where the heart that Danny likes so much, that's where that lives. So.
Biologist.
So, all right, let's talk about top line. What's the functionality of top line? Why are you looking at that? When a bench show judge looks at that, what's he actually looking for to transfer over into the function of the hound?
I mean, you're looking for strength. You don't want any bouncing, because that shows weakness as well. That is definitely another thing that is very important. I mean, you don't want it dipping, you don't want it bouncing, because that also is something that when you see a weakness like that, that is also something that can become weaker within time. So you want, and then that runs into the loins too. So you want definitely a little bit of arch in the loin, just a little bit. So, I mean, that's definitely another thing that's very important.
So you don't need something that's being walked through there that looks like a slinky. No. Walking along that's kind of, it's like, does that thing even have a backbone? And
right.
Because what is that showing me when I see a dog that's walking along that looks like a slinky?
Just another sign of weakness, not the longevity. It's gonna basically it's gonna fall in. I mean, Lee Kearns couldn't have said it better at the World Show when he said it starts at the bottom and it goes up like a house. And if you don't have that part, it's gonna cave in.
Nice. Well, Danny, you're sitting over there very courteous, which is unusual for you, but. So you're hunting a dog right now that is both good looking and capable. So when you look at a hound, what are you looking for? Let's get back to that a little bit.
I mean, be specific. What do you mean?
Well, okay, so the dog I'm talking about is Buffalo Creek Pop-em-Up Woodrow. He was the 2020 Blue Tick World Champion, placed 13th in the World Hunt. He's got a lot of ability. I'm pretty familiar with him. When I had him, then, I really liked the dog. But there was something about that dog that made you want him back. But you've also he's won on the bench and he's won in the woods.
Right.
He should win more on the bench. He won't let me show him.
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, you're definitely gonna need the discount code. But what are you looking for?
Big motor. I'm looking for a big motor. To me, if you have a big hunting dog, you're not going to be out. You're never blown out at any cast. You always have a chance. That dog's always out there, maybe going to get out there and tree that one more coon that you need. That the rest of the dogs that just don't have the gas, or walling around in the same holler trying to make something happen that's been gone hours ago. I need something that gives me a chance every night. I don't win them all, but I got a chance because he's got the gas to go and find a raccoon that he can actually tree on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about Woodrow. That's why I'm still feeding him. When I sold him to you, I was hunting Jim Dandy. And I really hadn't put the time in Woodrow that he needed yet, as far as singling him out and doing the things that I do to get one ready for a hunt. And I just wasn't tough enough to hunt both of them right, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah,
So
and you're one of the hardest hunting guys I know, seriously. I mean, when
to me, you can't do, unless you don't have a job during the day, there's no way, in my opinion, to get multiple dogs right. I mean, really right, to win at a national level.
Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that then. You're the hardest hunting guy I know with a job.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know a few guys that hunt harder than me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like the dog with a big motor. I ended up selling Jim Dandy to Kevin Cable, and Kevin ended up getting second in the Super Stakes with him. And I wanted Woodrow back. I regretted it the instant I priced him, and you jumped on it, because I knew in my mind he has something really special for a blue tick. I'm seeing more of them than I've ever remember seeing here lately with that gas, but in my mind, he had, man, he was, I know you don't want to hear it, but he's a walker dog, wrapped up in a blue tick hide, that's just me. I mean, I hunted a dog, well, most of his life, from 2 to 12, hard knocking Mr. J. I made him a gold champion 1 hunt at a time, and he spoiled me. The dog he just hardly made any mistakes, and he was easy. And Woodrow kind of reminds me of Jay in a way, with that hustle and get through the country and be by himself. But the difference between them two dogs is Jay would purposely pass up coons. He'd just blow out and get way off by himself. He didn't want nothing to do with anybody else. I don't see Woodrow passing much up.
No.
If he smells it, he'll run a colder track and tree a coon, but he's just moving all the time. He doesn't stand on his head a lot. He just always keeps it moving. And to me, that's what keeps me from pulling my hair out. Because with these Garmins now, you can watch them. And I'm sure there's dogs in my past that if I could have watched them on a Garmin, I probably would have had a heart attack.
No doubt. When Garmin's first came out, everybody's like, you can't tell lies anymore. Now you know what they're doing.
Right. I figured it'd be the death of a lot of dogs.
Yeah. When I had Woodrow, he showed me enough that, I bred him to a Grand Night champion female, and he'd never been in a hunt. And I bred him for a specific purpose, to get a female out of that cross. And that's why I bought him. Besides the fact that he was just a good looking dog, and he was an easy keeper. He was fine. He was easy to have around the place. He had a lot of ability. And so for me, it was one of those deals. I mean, I really liked him, but he was a good-looking dog. He had a lot of ability, and I was glad to get him back to you. When you asked me to get him back, I was happy to get him back to you, because I'm not going to put him on that big stage like that's your driving, goal is to compete at those high levels. And that's why I went back to you. I just appreciate you selling to me.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did. Like I said, as soon as, I priced them and you bid on it, I instantly regretted it. And Megan, I said I bought Woodrow back. She said, you've never bought a dog back. You said you'd never do that. Well, I did, and it worked out. Once I sell them, I usually don't want them back. I knew I screwed up.
What all have you accomplished with Woodrow? Let's just run down the list.
I don't know. I'd have to.
King of the Hunt Blue Tick Days 2019. I know you 13th in the World Hunt. How much?
All right. So from what let's see. Yeah, 2019, he was King of the Hunt Blue Tick Days as a 2-year-old. And then I think we were pretty high in the performance points in the Blue Ticks that year, as far as, the standings they have in the book there. And then the next year, we won King of Hunt and King of Show at the BBCHA spring hunt, which I thought that was pretty cool. In fact, that was kind of my goal for Blue Tick Days, but we got close. He actually won he finished a champion on the bench there Friday at Blue Tick Days, and then won champions on Saturday. But so that's kind of cool. That's really the coolest thing about him. And actually one of the things that I kind of felt bad about when I sold him to you was that was a dog that potentially Megan and I could both win with.
Yes.
You know, which is neat. You know, the teamwork involved on a single dog that's got a chance to do it all. You know, but so that's what's pretty cool about him, and a lot of his pups are looking pretty good too, like that. But anyway, let's see, Haslin Spring Hunt. I don't know. I lose track of stuff, Chris, but he ended up being like number 2 in our zone for the Purina race. The top 16 hunt at the fall roundup. First one of those they ever had, paid $1,000. We won it. Then of course the World Championship. I've placed him at Black and Tan Days. I placed him at the Blue Tick Reunion. He's done pretty good at the bigger events. I mean,
he's done real
well.
well.
Got his picture taken.
Yep, he's got his picture taken a lot, for sure. And you know, which kind of brings me to the topic that I really wanted to jump into, and you kind of keyed it up there for us, Danny. But was you know, something that you and Megan could both win with, and that's why I wanted to have you guys on the podcast. When you guys were doing the interview, you made a statement that I heard and took to heart. You know, this is a way of life for you guys. And you're not, neither one of you are one-hit wonders here. So what other dogs have you had that have made a mark on their breed? I know you've been in walkers and blue ticks. What other dogs are out there?
As far as dogs that I have owned?
Yep.
Let's see. I'll start it off with my old Smoky River Bandit dog. I won Blue Tick Days with him, and I think it was maybe 01.
Mm-hmm.
He only had 3 litters on the ground, and was shortchanged in his life. My vet, my ex-vet, actually killed him. Anyway, so that was Bandit, and fortunately with Bandit, I also had a female that Buffalo Creek Too Tough Betty. At the time, Bandit was my favorite dog because I've always liked a male dog, and Betty was a little younger than Bandit, and we went on to win quite a bit, Betty and I. But I bred Betty to Bandit, and we're lucky enough, out of only 3 litters on the ground, Bandit and Betty produced Dylan Smoking Blue Magic.
What was it about What was it about Bandit that you liked so much? Let's boil this down. What was it about Bandit that you liked so much?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Chris. I didn't know much back then.
That's all right. That's why we do this podcast.
Huh?
That's why we do this podcast. Everybody is at that point at one point.
Yeah, I liked him because he was quick on both ends. The style of hound that he was is not the style of hound I hunt today. He was a first type dog. You had to be, you know, on your toes, handler type guy, you know, and I hate that. I don't like that pressure. I like a dog over by himself. Let him settle in, tree him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then so there was Betty, you know, which she's in the Hall of Fame, and I won some pretty good stuff with her. Made her silver champion in PKC. And then there was Hard Knockin' Mr. J, which I made him gold champion, 100 at a time. I mean, I think, we made it to the 4th round of the PKC World in 2012. He's a walker dog. I've had some good ones out of him. Harry J, he's a silver champion. See, I had Smoky River Crank. He was a really nice dog that I really didn't win any big stuff with him. Had the Jim Dandy dog, like I said, that Cable ended up with and got second in Super Stakes with. I had Blue Creek Gauge, which a lot of the Blue Tick guys will know who he is.
Yep.
I started him and I sold him to Danny Glista for, in my opinion, a lot of money for a 9-month-old pup. But let me tell you, that was a freak of nature. He could do it all and do it all split treeing, you know, naturally. He was naturally independent.
Yeah.
Megan, stop recording me. Anyway, she's videoing me. Anyway, so there was Gage. I don't know. I this stuff could come right off the top of my head if you didn't ask me, but when you ask,
well, okay, so let's flip it over to the female. Too Tough Betty. What was it about her that you liked?
Man, she was just a bad unit. I got her. It's kind of funny. I was pleasure hunting with some friends of mine, Bud Smith, Pat Keller, David Hill, and Bud Smith, which Bud, he's probably not even able to turn a hound loose anymore. All my friends are a little older than me. But anyway, Betty got treed in there. We're all pleasure hunting. I was hunting a female named Moonlight, actually my first blue tick. And Betty come treed in there. And I mean, when Betty come treed, she sounded like a male dog with a big, growly, coarse locate, And I told them guys, I said, my dog just got treed. And they said, no, that wasn't your dog. That was Bud's dog. Well, long story short, I bought her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, 15 months old. She'd already done some winning with Bud. He went to a 500 added somewhere and put her in a pup derby or something and got in, and she was just, man, as a young dog, she was like, she'd be in the pack a little bit first, hard to get treed on. And split a time or two of a hunt. And as she aged and matured, she ended up being a dead loner that just had them coons. I mean, she had them. She was just an all around. What I liked about Betty is I could hunt a pup with her and she didn't change who she was. Meaning, like some of these dogs I hunt today, if you turn a pup loose with them, they're doing everything in their power to lose that pup.
Right.
Betty just go out there and get struck and tree a coon. Now, I really feel like the reason why she was such a loner as she got older, I started hunting more PKC than anything, and everybody's hunting dead loners. And she wasn't just following nobody. She's doing her own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you want to go with it, that's fine. And if you don't, that's fine.
Right.
But she was truly phenomenal and probably top 2 best dogs I ever owned in my life.
Is she on the historical reproducers list?
She never made it. She's 1 pup shy.
No kidding.
Yep. 1 pup shy.
Wow.
At the time when she was the number 2 reproducer, her littermate sister was the number 1 reproducer.
No.
Blue hugger.
That's amazing.
And right now, Betty's daughter is the number 1 reproducer. And she was also out of Gage, which Gage was a grand pup to Betty. So that was something I had in mind, when I sold Gage to Glista, I told him I want to breed Betty to this pup. I'd already seen enough out of him. He was phenomenal. He's naturally independent, real good locate, good tree dog, loud, first strike dog. He's bells and whistles. I mean, he was something else. But anyway, I thought that'd be a good cross, crossing, Betty back to her grandson. And it worked. Every one of those are titled. That's where Tough came from, and several others.
When you start looking at the intentions, like me, I make a cross on Woodrow, think I'm going to bring it back, and then you let those pups slip out of your hands, and you have those missed opportunities. Man, it's hard. It's tough.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
I'm always on to the next one, and I don't get too. No, if I would have stuck to what I had going back with Bandit and Betty, I could potentially have something going on like some of our ancestors, that we always looked up to, is keep doing it. But man, I can't. I just have to have something that, like I said, the heart and something that satisfies me. It makes it fun to coon hunt. So like, for instance, Betty got old, and she was a high measuring stick, and I ended up, getting Mr. J, which a young guy had Jay, and I always tried to buy him. I'd meet up with my buddy Pat, and a friend of his, this young guy, would be there wanting to go hunting or whatever, go hunting with us, and so ended up becoming a mutual friend and a pretty good friend of mine, Ryan Crowder. But at the time, I didn't know Ryan. I just see him when he'd be at Pat's house and we'd go hunting, and he had this pup that just blew me away. I mean, he just had so many tools, a huge mouth, a giant locate, just And I always took notice of this pup, and I tried to buy him, and the kid was just in love with him. He wasn't going to price him for nothing. And lucky for me, Ryan fell in love and needed money for an engagement ring, and he called me up. He called me up and priced him to me, and he was pretty dang high, in my opinion. But I'm pretty tight. But anyway, I said, let me try him for that, you know. And Jay was doing some things that were quirky to me, and I said I can't buy him for that money. When I hunt him by himself, I loved him. When I hunt him with another dog, if they, you know, he could be at the tree with him, but he wouldn't bark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, so I sent him back, and he hadn't hunted the dog in a long time. He's in love, you know. So I sent him back, and he took him hunting with Pat, and he goes, you know what? He called me up because I hunted him. You're right. He won't bark a tree with another dog. And I said, well, I mean, I didn't lie to you. So ended up, a week or so goes by, 2 weeks. He calls me back and says, you want to buy a good dog cheap? And I said, well, who? He said, Jay. I said, how much? Well, the price cut in half. I said, I'll take him. And I met him immediately because I've been trying to buy this dog forever, and he's still wishy-washy about it because he had an emotional attachment to the dog, which is easy.
I get it.
Figure out. It's easy to figure out why once you got to know the dog, and you know what I mean. He's
right.
That dog still hurts that he's gone, you know. But got him bought, and I hammered him by himself nonstop for probably 3 months, rolling out every coon he shot or every coon he treed, and the rest was history. That dude was bad to the bone.
Yeah, what'd you like about? He was quick on both ends, get by himself. What was it about him that you liked?
When he was younger, you weren't going to beat him on a running coon, and he had a monster locate that the second he started it, you could jam him on it. But that was only going to happen out of the truck. You know, if you hit that coon track right out of the truck, you know, you'd get a piece of that. But after that, he's going to be split all night. And as he got a little bit older, he was split every time. When he was younger, he might be split 20 yards, 200 yards, half a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Jay at 7 years old, people hated drawing me. You know, they'd say, "Where's Jay at?" You wouldn't hear Jay. They've done made two trees. You know, where's your dog at? About that time, whoa! I said, "Well, strike him."
Yeah,
it'd be a mile. You know, I'd walk him to a coon, and he didn't treat as many coons as a lot of dogs, but he didn't make any mistakes. That dog, he was, and I've said this before, and a lot of guys say this stuff. That ain't my opinion. It's a fact. Jay was one of the most accurate dogs that ever lived in the history of coon dogs, bar none, I guarantee it.
That's a pretty amazing statement, you know, considering the reputation that and I think it's comical not comical, but it's ironic that you have blue ticks and you have walkers, because it seems like those are arch nemesis of one another. Yeah. But you know that
you only live once.
Yeah, and you know the reputation of slick treeing and different stuff. To be able to say that about a walker dog is pretty cool, and be able to back it up. You know, that's the thing. I think we get.
Well, he made the top.
Go ahead.
He made the top reproducer list, and I never even ran an ad on him. It was guys that had hunted with him. They wanted a piece of him. You know, I mean, around here, the guys that say if it's at the end of the hunt and Danny trees Jay through the country, you might as well just give him the money. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, and I won a lot of casts that way. You know, last 30 seconds of the hunt, I'm just pinning my ears trying to find him. Where are you at? You know, because we couldn't use Garmin's back when I was pushing Jay. You know, if I had, his win rate would have probably been even higher.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, a lot of guys now with the you always get that guy in the cast. It's like, hey, you're 125 down. There's no way you can beat me. And then they look at you and you say, you want to bet? You know, and they stay in till the end. And sounds like Jay was that kind of dog. It's like, don't count him out until the time's up.
Yeah, he was. He like I said, he was just like clean. He wasn't going to draw minus. You know, he was just going to treat coons. And you knew when you treat him, I don't know, he's just a real confidence level that I already had it plussed up in my mind on the card.
That's right.
And that's the way it was, you know.
Yep.
It wasn't, with Jay, it wasn't like I can tell he's got him because the way he did that. or it's iffy because of the way he did that. No, Jake, I'm going to treat him the same way every time. You could treat him on his first locate, but you didn't have to. And he'd have them. I mean, he was just a freak.
Yep, those are cool dogs to hunt for sure.
Yeah, it made life a little miserable trying to find a replacement, But, I loved him.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's, you got anything else you want to add, Megan, to that? Did you hunt with any of these dogs?
Yeah, I hunted with every single one of them, actually.
Absolutely.
He didn't hunt Bandit.
Well, not Bandit, no. And actually, Betty, no, I was there when she passed.
Yeah.
He always said he was going to take me, but he never took me. But
what's that all about?
Special.
Man.
No, she's a 14-year-old dog. I wasn't going to.
I got to watch videos and stuff of her.
Yeah.
We went to old Chuck Coates' house, and we watched a bunch of videos of her, so that was nice.
That was pretty cool, actually. Chuck Coates, which he's been breeding blue tick hounds forever, and is, a lot of people probably don't even know who he is, but he's responsible for a lot of the stuff that we're following these days. But he come around when them dogs are all old. He went around to everybody's place that had them and took them hunting and got videos of Banger and Betty and Hugger and all these dogs that back then everybody knew who they were, and he's got a video with all them dogs, at different times, of course, on the same disc, treating coons. It's kind of neat.
So that I'm curious, that one of the reasons that I think I said it earlier in the podcast, but having a husband and wife team that has succeeded in this lifestyle that we live, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So, Megan, how often do you hunt? How many,
So it depends how the dog is looking that he's hunting or what I have to pack along, honestly, because sometimes there might be where I only go, once a week here and there, and there's sometimes where I'll go 4 or 5 nights a week with him.
So what do you base that on? Do you say that again? What do you base that on? Do you have to like the dog, or do you, what are your qualifications to say, hey, I want to get in the truck and go hunting with you tonight?
So sometimes, Chris, and I
done told you I'm very charming.
So sometimes I will be honest with you. Danny and I are both very passionate with these hounds, and it gets to the point where when we're working a dog, whether I'm working one to get it ready for a show or he's working one to get ready for the hunt, we get so passionate sometimes, and if it doesn't go the way the work that we put in, if it doesn't go the way that we want it, sometimes we get extremely frustrated and in a mode, I would say. And if Danny gets in one of those modes where he's getting a hound ready, it does get I'm
not fun to be around.
I hear you, man.
Joy out of it. Okay. So
I can.
So I'm not taking that away from him because I'm proud of him.
So basically, when he's catching crawdads in the creek and saying, "Look at this," I'm like, "God dang it! I'm just trying to listen."
Yeah. Okay. So I've been there, Megan, and I'm going to take up for Danny here because when I am focused, I lost a lot of hunting partners over the years because I had such high standards for dogs. And when I was hunting, I was focused on that dog. I didn't care about, anything else, any of the small talk and people looked at me and they're like, damn, he's no fun to hunt with. It's like, yeah.
Well, listen, Chris, I'm not taking that away from him because I understand the passion behind it.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm working a dog and
You're
I get
world
frustrated,
champion.
I'll be honest with you. I like my bubble. I like to just be in my zone. So I completely understand it. And I completely understand it, too, in his aspect, because there's been times where I've had pups. I mean, Katie Trail, the female that was bred to Woodrow at one point, when she was a young dog, I chased her down in the creek. I was so frustrated. And I just, I get it. It's not that I don't get it.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring out, Megan. I wanted to bring out that you're not just – the showpiece over here that's getting dogs prettied up because I follow you guys on social media and I've been around you and I know that you're as passionate about hunting and the outdoors and fishing and, all that stuff is anybody. So I wanted to showcase you as well and say, this just isn't some chick that's got a dog on a grooming stand, and you're living it too. And I admire that about you.
Yeah, I understand all aspects of it for sure.
Yep.
And I know that it takes a lot of hard work. So whether, show or hunt, I know the grooming that takes to go on both. So I completely understand it. It's just sometimes when I personally go and he's hunting his dogs, I just want to go out and have a good time. But at the same time, if I have my own dog and my own dog's not doing what I want it to do, I understand the frustration. So.
Takes it out on me instead of the dog.
Takes it out on you instead of I get that too.
Chris, I got one I'm excited about now. She might not make the breed standards height-wise, but she's built really good.
Yeah. All right. So real quick,
a hunt dog.
Real quick, Megan, I do want to switch back and talk to you about, what does it actually take to make a world champion? And I'm talking about a bench show champion. Walk us through the routine that you have to go through in order to get to that point.
Chris, it takes years. And, some of the questions that you have asked, sometimes when I'm in my mode, it's so much easier for me to respond in the way that I want to respond. But, it does. It takes years. And I'm going to try not to get emotional on this because, some people are like, will you take my dog for a month? Will you take my dog for, 2 months? It doesn't take that. It takes years of routine. So when we're going to a coon club meeting, when we're going to Farm and Home, when we're going to these places, even if you just throw them in the box or in the truck or whatever to get them on just a routine of being exposed and setting them up on the bag of dog food or horse feed in the feed store. Danny and I, it's taken Danny years to understand why I do that and not wanting to take a dog. Well, I do think it's very important that you get the dog in that routine because the dog is going to start to, understand the routine and know what you want and do it more, precise, better. So it doesn't take 1 month. And I try to tell people that, and that's why I don't take dogs in that much. Every once in a while I might help somebody, just to get the dog, exposed to different things. And, but it takes a lot of passion and it takes a lot of time. It's not just overnight.
The thing that aggravates me, and I think, and I'm not trying to be sexist here. My wife she's raised all my pups. She looks at them and she's like, I think this dog does this. And she doesn't hunt with me. I mean, she is like, you got too many dogs, but she's very tolerant of my passions. But she is very she's a 4-H, a dog 4-H leader and all that stuff. But she's just got a connection there that she sees it and hauls the dogs around. I would never do any of that. I would never think about, I'm going to Orslyn. I'm going to put the dog in the truck and walk it around Orslyn with me today. It's like, no, that's too much of a pain in the butt. What if it craps on the floor and I got to clean it up?
Chris, Danny gets really frustrated when I set a dog up and say, take the picture, but it's just on the routine or, getting them on that routine and exposure.
Right. Well, okay. So Danny, let's talk about what you do. And we're not limited on time, but I don't want to drag this thing out real long, and I don't know what you want to talk about, but it seems like you have a high percentage of pups that turn into coon dogs. And do you want to talk about how you get pups started in performance?
Nope, that's a secret.
I knew it. I knew that was going to be the answer, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
Honestly, Chris, it's genetics. Obviously anybody could be, investigating or, trying to figure out, studying history, genetics, the more good ones behind them, the better your odds are. And then it's time. It's actually putting the time in those animals and trying. And that's what I've always said. You know, I truly believe 80 to 85% of puppies go to waste because everybody has the intent, oh, I want this little puppy and I'm going to make it a coon dog. Well, before it's 6 months old, they're tired of it and they don't want to do anything with it. So, you know, I just think it's a lot of, first of all, I think it's genetics as far as, you know, a history and a pedigree of coon treeing animals, and then putting the time in them. I don't think it's anything super special. It's just using a little bit of common sense.
Wow. That's a hard one to come by these days, I'd say. Common sense.
I mean, it is 2020, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I share your opinion on that, Danny. It's a deal. You know, I dread, if I raise a litter of pups, I dread every time one of those pups leaves the driveway. I'm like,
no, I'm happy about it.
I am too, but at the same time, I'm thinking, did I sell that pup to the right person that's going to have that?
I know what you're saying. And like I said, you know, it's, and most of them, like I said, I mean, you can pretty much count it. Megan don't even sell pups. She handpicks, you know, tries to decide who gets them to give them a chance.
That's important.
It's very important, but at the same time, like my common sense side of it says, I spend a lot of money on coonhounds. I'm never going to get it all back.
Right.
But any little bit helps, you know. And I don't raise litters. I don't usually keep a female. I do have a litter on the ground right now. It's the first litter I've raised in, God, I don't know how long. In fact, the first one to get booked was by our buddy Steve Burkholder. He booked a female right away. So
you're not going to brag about that, are you?
Well, let's just put it this way. I'm not worried about it when that one leaves the driveway.
That's right. That's exactly. Well, Megan, tell us how you do it. You handpick people. Tell me the secret on that, because I'd love to learn it.
So it's not, and I mean, I don't want to name names, but obviously we know the people who care for the dogs. They put the time and because Danny mentioned something earlier that, yes, some people get these puppies and they expect it to happen overnight. They expect it to happen within a week or so. It's not going to. So you got to have somebody that understands the breed. You got to have to, understands that it's going to take time and work. And then also you want those dogs in the spotlight. You want them to be pushed. You want
them to reach their full potential.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's huge, and I'm always a part of that too. Like Girls First Cross. I mean, I have brought puppies back to my house to put in the shows and help them do that, because of course I'm going to do that for those people, because I made that cross for that. I didn't make that cross to sell puppies. And
what could we get for world champion puppies?
It doesn't work like that. Chris, we are going to breed Girl. She's due in December. I'm actually taking her this weekend to somebody, and she's not coming heat yet, but I had already told Danny, and I prepared him that this isn't how it's going to work. I mean, they're not going to be for sale. They're going to go to certain people.
Because you're trying to build a legacy.
Right. I think it's very important where they go for. And with coonhounds, we already know that we worry about the dying of the sport, right? I mean, so I don't know. You're never going to make your money back, no matter what. You got to be passionate about it. It's got to be something that you enjoy. So it's important to me.
The most impactful breeders I know and have talked to have been in this for the passion of building that legacy and improvement of the line that they're promoting. And
right.
Man, if people would just stop looking at dollar signs and thinking about the bigger picture of what am I contributing to my passion here rather than what I can get out of it, man, we'd be so much better off.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's so many crosses that have been made that we may not have seen the full potential of some of those, what has came from those crosses because of that.
Yeah. I could talk to you two for hours about this stuff and about the accomplishments and your passion and stuff like that. I want to kind of wrap this thing up with the topic of you two sharing a passion. It was evident when I watched the UKC video, the recap of the World Hunt, that this is a shared passion with these coonhounds. So maybe this is the free marriage counseling session. I don't know. But what makes Megan and Danny work with hounds? Megan, you go first. Or I don't know, maybe Danny, you go first. I want to hear Megan refute everything you say.
What was the question?
What are you doing? You're looking at the True Blue Brotherhood, trying to figure out what kind of smart aleck answer you can put on there. I said, what is it about hounds that makes Danny and Megan click and work?
I mean, I don't know. It just honestly, okay. So Megan was raised this way. This lifestyle is really nothing new to her. So she understands everything about me, and I understand maybe half about her. If you think understand women, fill me in. I just think it's just a common bond, of like when you really love something and then you get to share it with a person, it makes it twice as good. My throat choked up when Megan won the world. I knew how hard she has tried for that, and strived and worked her butt off to get to that point. And not just like she's always had good dogs, but like it's particularly important and to both of us for Girl, because we've always felt like she deserved. I think that Girl's gotten shortchanged a lot, but basically every time she's gotten beaten. That's just my opinion. When I look at that female, she's that should be the picture of a Walker female in the dictionary. She's close to perfect as you get, but to see, Girl win that at 7 years old and Megan won it for her so bad and try and work her butt off so hard, and to get it, I was happier. I imagine I was probably happier than if I myself would have won the World Hunt. And that's the truth. It really meant a lot to me.
Yeah. That's cool stuff.
Go ahead, Megan. Keep that.
I never thought you could be that empathetic, but it's good to see.
Yeah, I love her.
Megan, your turn.
It's very hard for me to beat that, Chris, but I will say that when it came to the world event, obviously we met coming in. It's not like anything new for either of us because he's been doing it for years too. So we do understand that passion. So when Danny does have his successes, I'm happy for him too. And when it came to the world event, I was disappointed because I was working very hard with two other females to get them prepared for this event, and they both came in heat.
I was going to ask you about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. It was, I'm not gonna lie, I called Danny and I was very emotional because I was disappointed, and he was actually, him and another friend were huge supporters on just take Girl. This could be her last chance. And I just didn't think it was possible. So, Danny's a huge inspiration on why Girl ended up at the World, for sure. So, that definitely was a teamwork, a team decision, I guess.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
So, but driving up there separate in my mind, and what I was hoping for is I was going to go out there for fun, and I was going to show Girl one last time and hope for the breed or hope for a cut. And I was praying, and Danny was doing so good. I just thought, this is Danny's year. This is, him and Woodrow's year to get the blue tick breed. To win the world with the blue tick.
Oh yeah.
I really thought that and really prayed for that. And, I never dreamed that Girl would end up winning the world. I thought I was going out there to do a little bit of winning with her and a friend's dog and watch him have his time, which he did. I'm not taking that away. That's awesome. That's huge that they made the accomplishments that they did. And I'm super proud of them. So moments like that make it, it's huge for us because that's why we do it.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. So the question, what's the recipe for a happy marriage when hounds are involved? Danny, you go first.
Oh my God. I mean, so I'm gonna tell you, I spent a lot of money in dog food, but
You, huh? Just you?
we spent a lot of money in dog food. Fine, whatever. Anyway, man, best thing I can say, if you're lucky enough to get a woman that shares your passion, try to put your foot down, not to bring any more dogs in, but when you see it's not going to work out, back off, man. Just back off. You ain't going to tell me what to do.
I don't.
We fight over kennel space, Chris. That's the problem.
Say that again. I didn't catch
Always the
that.
next one.
We fight over kennel space.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Megan, what's your recipe for a happy marriage with hounds?
Chris, it's definitely you definitely have to understand, because Danny and I, because of our passion, have definitely had our bickerments, but at the end, I mean, we understand why, because of the passion is so strong there. So it's just understanding, being understanding and stepping back and thinking and putting yourself in their shoes. And it's easy for us to do that because we share the same passion.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
Nice. I'd sent a message to Danny before we got started about helping. He needed help with the big words and stuff. But and I was glad you were going to be there. But Danny, I think I need help with the big words. What the heck is a bickerment? What is that?
Man, Google, buddy, Google. I'd say that's a cross between, that's a mutt. It's a cross between argument and bickering. Bickerment. Man, everybody knows that.
I'm just a simple guy with a simple podcast here. So I just wanted to spell that out a little bit. But
she's got her own vocabulary, buddy.
I hear you. Well, hey, you guys have been a blast, man. We're gonna have to get together and do this again sometime. I knew it was going to be fun, and I knew that it was going to be entertaining for sure. So you did not disappoint, either one of you.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Man, I'm happy that you guys agreed to do this, because I'm serious. I mean, world champion, same year, pretty cool stuff. So you got any final thoughts? What would you tell the hound world, Danny, about getting a hound ready for competition?
Oh, boy.
Leave your wife at home.
Yeah, well, I mean, my thing I always do is I single one out and I hunt a lot by myself. Once in a while I'll get together with somebody and just see where they measure up and see how they react to this and that. And been guilty of hunting by themselves too much, and then I get in a cast situation and I don't know how to handle it because, I haven't seen it, But in fact, I think, that cost me advancing the third round of the world hunt this year. Was hunted by myself too much. I wasn't sure what I thought he was going to do, and what he did was two different things. I could have treed for a quarter and would have won that cast, but I didn't think he was going to be there, and he was. And it was coon
Wow.
so I took 100 minus. That's the only thing. Anybody else in the world would have treated their dog there. He's there. He didn't sound right because he's not used to being with company. A couple of females kind of cut him off on his track. He struck it low, working it up the ridge high, and they were already up there. And it kind of bum-puzzled him a little bit. He didn't come on it right. He didn't sound right. But dumb mistake you know, all I had to do was gamble a quarter. I could have took 25 minus instead of 100 minus if he screwed, but he stays, and I wouldn't have took any minus, and I would have won. I would have advanced, but man, hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
But just know your dog, hunt your dog, and like I said, a lot by himself and a little with some other folks, just so you can see how they react to certain situations.
Nice. Megan, what do you have to say?
I think preparation's huge, no matter what, whether it's the show or the hunt. So you have to take the time into making sure, and for the bench show especially, you know, I work my hounds as much as possible, no matter what, whether it's before a show or not. But before a show, it's actually very important to take the time to go out there a few times a day, 2-3 times a day if possible, even if it's 5-minute sessions to work them. And obviously the grooming part of it's important too, because every little thing helps. I can't express that enough.
Well, I hear one common theme, and that is willing to put in the time and the work. You know, I don't care if you're talking about basketball or football or coonhounds. If you're going to be successful, and it doesn't necessarily just translate into competition, it's just success, is you've got to be willing to put in the work. And that's true in every aspect of life. And I always love it when, you know, we can take our houndsman lifestyle and look at it as a microcosm for success in life. And in my opinion, you guys are a success, and I'm glad that you guys came on the podcast. So thanks. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, Chris.
You
What's
bet.
a microcosm?
What's that?
What's a microcosm? You got me.
Hey, help him out, Megan. Show him how to use Google and get him squared away. Until you do that, you follow your hounds.
You always like to throw a big one in there, don't you?
Oh yeah, that was the zinger. That was the zinger for the day. Hey, while Megan's Googling, I'll leave you with this: you follow your hounds, and I'll follow mine.
See you, bud.
Thank you.